Hi, this is Ken and Michelle Bass.
And you're listening to the Resilient Parenting Podcast.
Okay, as we get ready to introduce this latest episode, we're doing something entirely different than we've done before.
We are.
We are. This time, instead of sitting at our kitchen table talking to you, we're sitting at our kitchen island countertop talking to you.
Oh, goodness. Yes, we've gone a very far place, a far, far place. I can't reach back and touch the chair I was sitting in last week. Oh, wait. Yes, I can.
It's a far, far better chair than you've touched before.
I don't even know what to do with that.
And I know, you're saying we need to get out more.
Yeah, this from the man who thinks going to the grocery store together is dating or going on a date.
It's not. It
Big
involves food,
spender.
just like going to dinner.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Okay. Yeah. What's been happening lately?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You've been going by yourself.
I'm getting my steps in,
Yeah, you're getting your steps in. This man and his steps. You don't understand
Hey,
how
when you're retired, you got
obsessed
things to do,
he is with his steps.
Okay, well, we're
getting a little glimpse into our lives.
Here's the segue. We're stepping forward now into the.
Oh, look what you did there.
Yeah, you like that? Yeah.
Well, it's okay. Just kidding.
And if you want to step forward with us and find out more about things that we talk about,
you can find us on Facebook at the Resilient Parenting Podcast Facebook group. And there you can find the latest episode, but we also will share resources and different pictures and videos. So you definitely want to join that community. You can also find us on Instagram at the Resilient Parenting Podcast. And please share the episodes, our website. We really want to reach more families. We're definitely getting there. I was getting ready to say we're getting around, but I don't know if that sounds good. The podcast is getting out there. We're even, believe it or not, we're on some email lists where they send out. So if you by chance say, "Hey, wait, I think I saw that," click on it. Give us some love.
yes. And right now we're going to step into our next interview.
Oh, my goodness. You know what? You keep
What?
using the step in. The only thing that I can think of with you is stepping in it.
I'm good
Thank
at that
you.
too.
Thank you.
Hello there. We're talking today with Tom Patterson, Doctor of Pediatrics, and we've got quite a bit of ground to cover here with Tom.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm a general pediatrician, and I've been in the Valley for about 28 years now and have practiced in a number of settings, from private practice to a federally qualified health center. And in 2019, I went to an ACEs conference, Adverse Childhood Event Conference, with Nadine Burke-Harris, and that changed my mind. I wanted a refund from my medical school, University of Arizona, because I had not been trained for adverse childhood experiences and what a robust field this is and has become. And so I've just poured myself into this as one of the passions that I have. So I get to practice clinical medicine. I get to teach the future residents and doctors from a number of locations, and hopefully we'll spread trauma-informed care so that we can help change outcomes for families.
So for those who may not be familiar with ACEs, can you explain a little bit about what that means?
Yeah, so adverse childhood experiences were studied by a group at Kaiser Permanente. Vince Felitti and his group were running an obesity clinic, and they discovered that people that fell out of the obesity clinic with regain of weight after significant loss, they did an exit interview, and they often found out that there was adversity in those people's childhoods. And so they presented it nationally at an obesity conference, and they were left off the forum. And a very astute CDC doctor said, hey, I'll study this with you. And so really they did a robust study. And we have to remember Kaiser Permanente, these were people that were really um, middle-aged people. They had good access to care, and yet adversity showed up in their lives and impacted the outcomes they had as adults with respect to their health, their mental health, their livelihood, every aspect of their life really could be related back to the adversity they had in childhood. And so the adverse childhood experiences back in the 90s are very different than now. Three main groups, emotional, physical, sexual abuse. You have family dysfunction where you have, incarceration of parent, mental health issues in parents, substance use in parents, violence witnessed in the home. And then you have neglect, either, medical or emotional, physical neglect. It's easy for me to see that, adversity like mental health or substance use can relate back to childhood adversity, but cancers and COPD, heart disease. So that tells you that it's more of a adversity leads to systemic changes in our biophysical bodies, and then that changes our outcomes in many ways across many different avenues.
So true. I was thinking about how the pandemic really changed too. Like a lot of people, like their it seems like there's a lot more anxiety and difficulty being able to regulate and being able to parent, and then just with so much access now to the news and what's going on, and we have so much intake that I don't think our brains were made for that much.
Yeah, it's bad enough for us as adults. Imagine what kids are having to deal with.
So we're talking about the trauma and how it changes. I'm curious about intergenerational trauma and how that plays into all of this.
Yeah, so there's really good data that shows that we end up parenting like we were parented from generation to generation. Also, poverty, other situations, mental health that can be hereditary, all of those things feed into the fact that we're going to see an increasing number of people that are facing challenges due to childhood trauma. And you had mentioned the pandemic, and so I think there's really very few families where the children don't have at least an ACE score of 1 now, and if you have an ACE score of 4 or more, it puts you in a graded relationship with many different medical and mental health diagnoses.
I was wondering, how do you first delve into a young person's situation? What tips you off? What kind of detective work do you do? It's mind-boggling to think that you start unraveling what's happening with them and help them out, right?
Newborns.
Yeah, yes. I originally started a screening, and I learned very well from people who have done this that you don't just start. And yet I was in clinic one night, saw a family that needed the knowledge that I had. And so I did an ACE screen. I started doing that, and then I formalized it, did some learning collaboratives across the state with respect to adverse childhood experiences with other experts in the field. And then I came to realize that screening is not enough, that we really have to teach resilience. And so I
Mhm.
started teaching resilience to everybody, no matter what they looked like, no matter what, situation I was in, the location, I started teaching resilience. And so my favorite place to teach resilience is in the newborn nursery. And so I've got a brand new baby, parent or parents, caregivers or caregiver. And I know that if I can teach that caregiver of that baby to practice self care, they will learn to self regulate better. And if they can self regulate better, they can co regulate better. And we know that the infant needs to have a co regulator, that is the parent or caregiver. And if that parent or caregiver, like I said, is practicing self care, they are better able to be a good co regulator.
So, what would be some tips that you would give the parent?
So I like to tell parents, our babies will and children will watch everything we do. They will listen to some of what we say, and they'll repeat only the words we don't want them to.
Oh, of course.
Um,
Hmm.
and so then I talk about, we recommend that mom and dad or partners get on a date by the time the baby is 2 months old. This gives the child, the children and baby, a good example of love. And so their love story will be one that is good when they grow up. As well, we know that children who have a home where parents are well bonded, they have less adversity and have more resilience building the skills in that family. So I go on to see the other relationships they watch is how we take care of ourselves. And so it's important for mom and dad or caregivers to do something kind for themselves every day. And this is when I have to explore a little bit about what they think self-care looks like. And sometimes it's a shower every other day. And so I have to take them back to the last time they didn't have stress in their life and say, what did you do then that made you feel relaxed and comfortable and capable? And so I've explored that with many families. And I have one family where mom had not read a book since she was a teenager, and she started reading again, and she reads. And every time I see her, I ask her, like, what book are you reading now? And I will say that her children went from acute care visits to well care visits. And I get the joy of seeing mom thrive, and the children are thriving in that story as well.
What would you say to a family that maybe is experiencing crisis? So would love to have that, but maybe, financially it's difficult. And I know a lot of people are struggling right now just because of the cost of everything seems to have gone up. But what are some things that you would say to a family that maybe is struggling?
I think the most important thing to speak to in a situation where the family is struggling is what are the positive things. So we can look at positive childhood experiences, and we know from studies that positive childhood experiences outrun adversity in almost every situation, always. And so I will get down to, mom, you got up this morning, you got the children prepared, and you got them to clinic on time. You're doing great.
Yeah.
I really just try to focus on the positives. I explore what the family might look like. Do they have traditions they enjoy either in the family or in the community? Are there two people outside of the home that the child feels loved by and knows that they can trust? Is there someone in the home that the child can feel loved by and can trust well? So I start to explore what positive childhood experiences might already exist, and then build on those as we start moving towards what self-care might look like, because parenting is hard when everything goes well. It's joyful, but it's also hard. So when you're going down the highway system of parenting and there's an exit that has construction blocking it, it's dark, you're not sure which direction you're going to go or what the outcome is going to be. If you've done self-care, you're going to hold it together better, you're going to co-regulate better, and you're going to also teach your children how to self-regulate. So when they're in that situation going down the road, they're going to be able to have more calm, less stress, and it really comes down to minimizing and mitigating the biophysical, neurobiophysical factors that are included in trauma.
And you mentioned the word trust a couple of times there, as far as the infant goes, or the young person goes. That trust plays over into the adults also, right?
Yes, absolutely. I think one adversity that families can experience is substance use disorder. And we know from studies that counseling does not add a significant amount to medication assisted therapy, but it's that relationship of trust that's built that helps people with substance use disorder stay sober. So it's about relationships. And if we think about relationships, they're the number one social determinant of health. So if a child is surrounded with good relationships, their health outcomes are going to be better. We have studies that show children with a lot of adversity, but the families have a lot of resilience building skills and a lot of connectivity in the community. Those children have low frustration scores. We have the opposite end of that, with children with low adversity, but low resilience building skills and low connectivity in the community, those children have high frustration scores. And so we know when parents practice resilience building skills, the children have better outcomes.
And we have better outcomes as adults, being able, one of the hardest parts, I think is also isolation, and having a little one be completely dependent on you all the time and not having any connection yourself with someone else, or having folks come in and provide not just emotional support but also being able to hold the baby and all of that. So are there resources out there that you know of that can help maybe a family that doesn't have resources yet in the community? Maybe they're new to Idaho, or they moved away from their family.
Yeah, I think you raise an interesting question. During pregnancy, you go from, weekly visits with your healthcare team.
Mhm.
And that's a social interaction for that parent you described that doesn't have a lot of connectivity. And then you have your baby and you go to visits that are, one postpartum visit, and the focus changes from mom to baby. And so, it's important for the pediatricians to practice trauma-informed care and be that trusted support person for mom. In the medical world, we have a number of options for families. If a child has significant risk, then there's early childhood development. There's the infant toddler program with home visiting. There's parents as teachers. So we have a lot of resources in the state that we can help families connect with resources. I think providing that trusted environment for them to receive medical care is important. We can be one of those positive, trustworthy people for that child, that the family then only has to find one other trustworthy person that loves their child outside of the doctor or provider.
Absolutely. You brought up I remember when I was pregnant, and the focus was on obviously the baby, but really on me and how it was progressing. And then yeah, it changed, and I could see for some of the families that are out there, that is one of the only positive adult interaction that they will receive. So I definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, and I think for a mom, if you think about the neurophysiological and chemical reactions that have to happen for a baby to be born, mom's body unwinds from all that as well. And so postpartum depression is a very real thing. And if we don't screen for it, we don't find it. And we can't help connect moms to resources to help with their postpartum depression. I love working with family docs because they can take care of mom as well. I'm a pediatrician, so I can refer them to my family medicine colleagues, but a family doc can do it all for the family.
What are or where are some of those resources you think people can access from around here?
Yeah, so we are certainly in a medical provider shortage in Idaho. This has been present my entire career of 28 years here. I think always there are federally qualified health centers, and this helps those families that are at the lowest poverty levels. So, any one of the federally qualified health centers is going to be a place for people to reach care. I think the Head Start programs are an excellent place. Strengthening Families is a great program. They'll have a curriculum for parents. They'll have a curriculum for children. I think also the community schools cannot be left out, because that's a place where parents learn to trust gathering and authority, and they'll learn to trust that community school. And oftentimes those children then have better access to resources as well.
And also libraries too, right?
Yes, libraries. I lived in the county for a while, so I couldn't get a library card, but now I do. And I most recently got a National Library of Congress library card. So I'm pretty happy
wow.
with that. I was in DC advocating for children 2 weeks ago, and happened upon the National Library of Congress and got a library card. So that brought some resources to me as well.
You have a fancy library card.
Yes.
And, I thought it was really, you mentioned this earlier in the conversation about one of the mothers you were talking to about she hadn't read a book since she was a kid. Now she's reading a lot. And I was thinking, wow, there's a possibility of some kind of book club there, huh? You could get involved in that one.
Yeah, absolutely. We have Reach Out and Read at our clinic, and so I love it. From 6 months to 6 years, we give children books every time they come in for a well child check. And so, if you think about 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, 15, 18, 2 years, 2.5, all the way through age 6, they're going to have a library from Dr. Tom. And I think that is so cool because I can sit in a clinic and read a book with the family and show them how to read. And then, going back to the newborn nursery, I like to start early. So I tell dads, based on a Harvard sociology study, dads who read to their babies developed language faster. And they also had a lower stress response as teenagers. We also know that children that grow up in a home with a rich language environment will do better in every stage in kindergarten. So I think literacy helps mitigate some of the consequences of adversity as well.
Well, this has been such an amazing conversation, and I love that there's so many resources out there, but there's also just so many simple things that we can do and new parents can do for self-care and regulation. I was even thinking, like, go find a green space. So even if it's bringing, plants in your home or going out and just getting some fresh air, that in itself is one small little step that you can do to help with your own regulation and self-care. So it doesn't have to be, super big things when people think of self-care. It can be very simple, but being able to prioritize taking care of self, because like you said, the kids are watching and they're going to be, you're modeling how they're going to treat themselves. So start with self and be able to show them that it's important to take care of yourself and then others. Yeah, I really appreciate you, Dr. Tom. I like that.
Dr. Tom.
Well, thank you. I would love to end on self-care is not selfish care. That came from a doctor who cares for a woman who has a child who's an adult who lives in their home, who's completely dependent on mom for every function of her day. She is a complex adult who mom is involved in her care really as an ICU nurse 24/7. Mom said, I still take time for myself every day because self-care is not selfish care. And I think that is a beautiful statement.
And it's absolutely true. I mean, in fact, taking care of yourself is how you take care of those that are dependent on you.
Yeah. And I love Dr. Felitti has impacted me so much and left me with the comment that asking is a powerful form of doing. And so when we ask about trauma, we are doing a powerful thing because we're showing that we care.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for taking some time from your busy schedule to join us on our podcast, and very excited for everyone to be able to hear this episode.
Yeah, but thank you, Dr. Tom. And I tried not to call you Major Tom. That's my Bowie years.
We're showing our age here, Ken.
Yes, we are.
Thank you. This was way more fun than I could ever have imagined. And I too hope that families can just change one thing based on what they hear from your podcast that will improve the outcomes for their children.
Well, thank you.
This podcast is brought to you by the Idaho Children's Trust Fund.